Have you ever thought about using AI in your games, for example for NPCs, that you can have some really interesting dialogues without you actually writing all of the texts? So I will teach you how to implement the ChatGPT into Unity, that you can give it custom orders and then have your players communicate with it. My scene setup is pretty simple. As you can see, I just have a panel in the background, then some input field where we will write the text, and then I have a button with which you can just send the message, and then text field where all of the text that you write and that the AI responds to will appear here. And then also the code, which you can see isn't long, it is very short and it is pretty easy to customize. But before we can start using the AI in the script, we first need to go to GitHub and download these packages containing all of the APIs. For me, for some reason, the newest package wasn't working, so I had to go to the other releases and download the 1.6, which was working. So we can just download the source code in the zip file, then go into your files and just extract the file. Then you can just simply open the folder, and the only folder you need is the OpenAI API, so you can just drag it into the folder. And now you should be able to use it in your scripts. So I will create a new script and call it AI chatbot. First we will need to import all of the libraries, so we can add using OpenAI API, then we can add using OpenAI API.chat, and we can also add using OpenAI API.models. And because we will be changing the UI, I will also add using Unity Engine.UI, and I'm using TextMesh Pro, so also TM Pro like that. In the beginning of the class, we will just add some variables. So we have just 3 variables for all of the UI, then one for the OpenAI API, and then I have created list of the messages. So each time when the player or the AI adds some message, it will get added into the list. And when we need to ask the AI for something, we will give it just the whole list with the messages, so it has all of the data and it can answer depending on the data. On the start, we actually don't need update, so we can like this, and on the start we will just create the API. So API equals new OpenAI API, and then into the parentheses we need to write the API key. This you can find it when you go into your browser, and when you go just to OpenAI like this, then you need to go to developers and to overview. Then you obviously need to sign in here, and you can go to view API keys, which is your just your personal key. You definitely don't want to share it with anyone, because if they could get it, then they could use the AI using that key and it would cost you money. But don't worry, the AI really doesn't cost a lot of money. You can take a look at my billing, and I have been using it for some time, and you can see that it cost me $0.01, so it is really nothing too expensive. In the API keys, you can just hit create new secret key, give it some name. And you definitely don't want to be sharing with anyone. I will probably delete this key after recording, so don't worry. You can just copy the key and then give it into your code, just in the parentheses. Like this, we have our own API key. But when you are then publishing the game, please make sure that you really are not giving it to anyone. And also, it is not ideal to have it in the code, but for the explanation I will have it here. Then we can just create list for the messages. So messages equals new list of chat message. And we will just add the first message to the list, which is like just telling it the context in which you are in the game. So you can tell it the context be like you are a magician or you are something, and you need to let's say give the player some puzzles or some of that stuff. So we can create just new chat message, and here we need to define the chat message role. So we can type chat message role that, and there are 3 roles, as you can see: the assistant, system, and user. The assistant is just the AI, the system is like the context in which like it decides which info it should give you, and then the user is just you. So we will use the system for the first message, and here you can type the message. So here is my message. It is pretty simple, just that the bot should help you, and if they say that they are beginner, the player, it will give you the hello world snippet, and I also told it to keep the answers short, because for the AI you are paying for how much text it generates you. Then we will need to add some listener to the button, so that way when we actually press the button, it will run some void. So we will create the void first. So this has to be private async void, and we can name it just get response, which will get the response from the AI. So just add the listener to the button. When we click, it will call the void get response. And obviously at the beginning we can set the text to some text, so text field that text equals I'm your Unity and C# helper. Now for the void get response, so when we click the button, we want first to check if there is actually some text. So if input field that text, and if the length of the text is less than 1, then we can just return, and if not, then we can do some stuff. We will turn the button off, that way we can't just send the message more times. So enable equals false, and then we will create the chat message. So chat message, this is the user message, equals new chat message. Here we will assign the role, so chat message role dot, and this is user because it is the player, and then the string, which will be the input field dot text. So now we have the user message, and we can just easily add it to the list. So messages dot add, and add the user message. Now we can also input it into the text field. So text field dot text equals, and we can give here u plus, and we can take it from the user message. So user message dot content, which is just the text from the message, and then the input field we can just set the string to empty. Now we will need to create var chat result, and here we will actually need to do some stuff. So this equals to await API dot chat dot create chat completion async. You just create new chat request. So it should look like that. And here we will need to define just some stuff. First, what we can define is model of the AI. So there are a few types of the model. I'm using the model.ChatGPT Turbo, but you can obviously use any other one you would want. But I think this one is good for the basic chatbot. You could find the models obviously on the OpenAI website. Now we also need to set something called temperature, which is it can be number from 0 to 1, and it is basically you are just saying the AI how strict it should be with the stuff that you are giving it. So if you set it to 0, I believe it is like completely strict, that if you tell it some information, it should behave only according to that information. But if it is 1, it is like more creative and can do more stuff on its own. Then we can define the max tokens, which is basically just the price of the message. And then we need to import the messages, which is just the list that we have created. So messages equals the messages list. Now on a few last things, we will create chat message once more. This will be the response message, and this will be equal to new chat message. We will define the role, so chat message role dot, now it is assistant because it is the AI. Now we also need data for the message, so the string, and we will take this from the chat result. So chat result dot choices dot message and dot content, which is content of the message. Now we can add it to the list. So we will just say messages dot add the response message, and now we can just set it to the text field. So text field dot text, and lastly we can set the button to enabled. So send button dot enabled equals true, and this is all that we need. So you can see that it is very simple. Now the only stuff that you would need to change if you want to change the behaving of the AI would be just the first message to give it some context. So this is really all that you need. Now we can just put here the script, assign all of the variables, and we can try it. Yeah, you can see that it is telling me that it is the helper, and I can ask it, for example, what are voids? And I probably don't even need to ask C# because it should know that I'm asking something about the Unity and C#. Yeah, it says that there are methods, blah blah blah, and all of that stuff. Then I can ask, for example, they are used to perform what can return a value, because it was saying that void can't return a value, and then what can. Yeah, you can see that functions. So you could do any other stuff. You could have some NPC in a shop, and you could just give it some information based on which stuff they have in the shop, so what they can sell you. You could also give it some price and all of that stuff, and just then be talking with those NPCs, which is definitely better than just have pre-written dialogue. So I hope that this video was helpful. Definitely don't be afraid to use the ChatGPT in your projects. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you in next videos. Bye!